The census is a constitutionally mandated inventory held once every 10 years, accurately counting the population of every person living in the United States.
Beginning in March, the U.S. Census Bureau will invite households across the country to participate in the 2020 census. But what is the census?
The Constitution mandates that we take account of every whole person in the country every 10 years. It's very exciting, and that count is coming up again this March.
Why is this important to everyone?
Oh, and it is so important. We know that the census apportions our congressional representation, right? How many folks we're going to send to Washington. But I didn't know when I started at the Census Bureau that more than $675 billion, billion with a B, of federal funds are allocated to needy families all over the state based upon how many folks we report to the Census Bureau every 10 years.
So some of that pie could be coming down at the county level, at the city level, to individual jurisdictions?
Absolutely. And these are some of the most important programs. We're talking about Medicaid. We're talking about grants for highway construction, right? They're very relevant here in Clark County, right? We're talking about reduced school lunch. We're talking about WIC. We're talking about SNAP. We're talking about job retraining, right? The Worker Innovation Opportunity Act, right, is funded based on how many folks we report to the Census Bureau. So essentially, we want to get our folks retrained, but back to work. And the best thing we can do is respond to the census and get as many people as we can to respond.
Typically, or maybe in the past, it's mostly been a mail. People have been responding to the census by mail. Is that still true this year? And there must be some other ways that a person can respond to the census for 2020.
I'm so happy you asked that question. We have the most accessible census ever. This is so exciting. Not only is a mail option still available, but we can now go online to 2020census.gov. And we have phone options available as well. Now the census, for the first time ever, is available in 13 languages, right? The 13 most spoken languages in the country. And all people have to do, starting mid-March, to make sure that we get that federal funding that we need so much, is to go to 2020census.gov and fill out the short questionnaire. There's no enrollment necessary either. It's not like health insurance. People don't need to wait for anything to come into the mail. They can just log online in mid-March to 2020census.gov and fill it out. It's that easy.
In this day and age, confidentiality is at the top of everyone's list. Talk to me about the confidentiality factors involved in Census 2020.
Oh, thank you. The Census Bureau takes confidentiality extremely seriously, as serious as anything. Under very strict penalties of law, no Census Bureau employee may share your information that you respond to the census with. The penalty is 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine per offense. There are no exceptions to this. Folks can be rest assured that their information will not be released until 2092. The Census Bureau holds the individual information for 72 years. So I always like to use the example, like if folks use Ancestry, right? The most recent information you can pull off of Ancestry using census data is from 1940, right? I want to know what my grandfather was doing in 1950, but I can't find out yet. Not until 2022, right? 72 years.
As we're taping this towards the end of February, I know March 12th is a big day. Talk to me what's going to happen as far as training and what steps we're going to see in the next couple months or so.
We are so excited about our outreach program here. Starting in mid-March, we will have events. We have a lot of volunteers. We have more than 80 to 90 volunteers through our complete count committees that are organizing events all through mid-March. The municipalities, including Clark County, has been wonderful, just wonderful. We are doing events here as well. We are going to get as many people together, let them know how important it is to respond to the census. And we have a lot of fun stuff planned. And we do, and because we can respond through the end of July, it's not just going to happen in March, but in April too. We are invested in Clark County to make sure that we get everyone counted, because it is so important for our families and for our children that we get the federal funding that we need. And I want, if I may, make a special point about children programs, things like reduced school lunch, school breakfast, S-CHIP health insurance for children, foster care funding, special needs education. All of these are funded based on how many children we report to the Census Bureau every 10 years. So we have to make a special point that not only do we need to respond to the census, but we need to count all of our children too. And we missed way too many children in the 2010 census. We cannot afford here in Clark County to do that again. So we got to make sure, I want to make a special point to make sure we count our children. It's so important.
I believe you mentioned the website already, but I assume if there's any other questions, they can go to that website. Tell me about that again.
Yes, 2020census.gov. You can get all your questions answered there. Starting in mid-March, you can respond to the census. You can find the phone numbers there for, if you'd like to call in and take the census via phone. We have 15 unique phone numbers for languages. So if people are uncomfortable taking the Spanish or taking the census in English, please use one of the phone numbers or log online. We also have 59 additional language guides beyond the 13 languages available at 2020census.gov. I'm so excited on how accessible the census is this year.
Appreciate your information. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. It's great to be here.